going to the ugly cry.
No ugly crying, huh?
No.
That wasn't my fault.
199% your fault.
It wasn't my fault.
Okay.
Sit.
Can you sit?
Good boy.
Hey, folks. Not Lester here.
Longhorn Lester here.
No. He told me I need to come up with an intro, so. Hey, folks.
Yeah, every good YouTube channel has their own intro. I'm loaning my space to you, so it's not my intro. We got to have DJ's own intro for her podcast video.
All right, couch time with Earl.
So, get started.
Oh, okay.
That's the intro. Let's get this thing started.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about law enforcement. I've had a lot of emails asking stuff, wanting us to elaborate on what it was like being a law enforcement family, being a wife, to a state trooper. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Yesterday we attended a funeral of a really great man that was a trooper for 42 of the, how many years?
He was a trooper for 42 years and 6 months.
Yeah.
The Highway Patrol's history, what's 42 times 2? So
84.
There you go.
Yeah. So literally half of the time that OHP has been in existence, he worked for them.
I think this year will be actually 85 years because it started in 1937.
Okay.
He got on patrol in 1968.
Yeah. Yeah. And we attended his funeral yesterday, and it just kind of, just kind of prompted me to want to talk about it today. Being in the church with all the troopers and all the retired guys, and
yeah, I think you kind of need to set the scene a little bit there, though. So his name's Roy Rogers, not the Roy Rogers, but the Roy Rogers, not the singer.
No,
Roy was a legend in his own. Like I said, got on the Highway Patrol in 1968, and eventually became the president of the Troopers Association for about 15 years, and did some of the most incredible things for the Oklahoma Highway Patrol as a trooper that you could ever imagine. As far as things like pay raises and all kinds of different things to help the troopers, and was even offered the job of commissioner DPS a couple different times and turned it down because he wanted to work for the trooper, not the department. Mm-hmm. Anyways, lived 10 miles from us or less. Yeah. And Roy wrote a letter of recommendation for me when I got on patrol, and it was kind of he retired, I think it's been too long, 2009, 10, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but just one of those older guys that I think every trooper in Oklahoma looked up to at some point in their career. Whether they knew it or not, they had so many reasons to thank him. Mm-hmm. But just kind of a legend in our area. Yeah.
And so today I just kind of want to go back and tell y'all about our story and things that I kind of had to deal with. And we've touched on it some here in the past. But so I'll go back. Daniel and I got married in May, and 5 days later, he left for patrol school in Oklahoma City, and that's a 4-month-long journey. And I say journey because it was hard for both of us. Obviously, mentally and physically for him, exponentially.
Our academy's like
yes,
Marine Corps boot camp style. It's not a classroom, just 8 to 5 type thing. It's a high stress, high mental stress, high physical stress on campus. You're there 24/7.
Yeah. No access to your people.
No.
Matter of fact,
we could write letters.
I was going to get that and bring it in here. But there was no access to home or to your people. And before he left, I think it was Danny that told us that Danny is a trooper that did his at-home interview. And
I talked about him on a video a while back.
okay,
He did
yeah.
the podcast that I wanted everybody to listen to.
Yeah, that's right. And anyway, I think it was him that said, listen, when he goes up there, when you drop him off, you have to drop him off. You can't let him drive his own vehicle up there. And I was like, why? And he said, because he will leave. If he has the chance, he will leave. So don't let him drive up there. Because we literally had no other plans. I mean, I was in college, doing my student teaching. And so there was no backup plan as far as, the academy went. So that was...
They told us not to have a backup plan.
Right.
It's that high stress. Like,
yeah.
If you have a backup plan, you'll take it.
Yeah. And so he had to finish. Anyway, so it was very, very hard emotional journey for us. And so we only communicated through letters. And then I don't think we saw each other for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think the first 3 or 4 weeks, we didn't get to leave at all. And then we got like a Sunday leave.
Visit.
It was supposed to be a 4-hour leave. It ended up being like an hour and a half.
Yeah. He needed a haircut real bad. And so like I had to cut his hair like in a park by the academy. Anyway, it was crazy. And he was so hungry and and he wanted to come home. There was a lot of crying. And I said, no, you have to stay. You have to stay. And anyway, so we did that. And of course it got easier as the academy, ended. Obviously, he got to...
Just sit, Earl.
He just wants to be close to you. The academy ended, and, it was, we were so happy that we all survived it.
Because at the time, it was not just you and I. We had Weston, too.
Yeah,
so
we had Weston.
Had just turned 4. And I turned 22 during the academy, so...
Yes.
I was a kid still.
Yeah. And then, we were also, super in love and, not getting to see each other, not getting to communicate much except through...
We had a 4-month honeymoon. What are you talking about?
That was not a honeymoon. And then we decided to start trying to have Emily. And that was a whole process. We were having all kinds of trouble getting pregnant with her. And it was, a year and a half. And we had just seen a fertility specialist, and it was fixing to get really expensive. And thankfully, a lot of God things happened, and we got pregnant with Emily. And anyway, long story short, he was in a county, stationed in a county just up from here, and where we are now, and we had to live in the county that he worked in at the time. And so we lived in Stratford, about 30 miles north of here. Yeah. Yeah,
you went through the whole home buying process without me.
I had to buy a house without him. That was student teaching and all that good stuff. And then we got pregnant with Emily. And we finally had the opportunity to come back to this home of ours. And so that was a blessing. And... then we've been here ever since. I will say that early on, I made a very conscious decision to never be mad at him while he was at work. A lot of people ask me how...
Why can't we just do it ever? Never be mad at me.
No, you don't get that pass all the time. Early, I couldn't... People ask me all the time, how did you do it? How do you do it? And being a cop's wife. And first of all, I knew Jesus had his back, and mine and ours. And even knowing that, I made a decision that God would take care of him. And, I feel like we both knew that if it was your time, it was your time. And obviously we didn't want anything to happen to him, but our faith was very monumental, obviously, in that. I don't know how to describe that, but I made a decision to not ever be mad at him when... I can't talk when you keep messing with the screen.
The focus, I'm trying to get the focus right on this.
I know what
you're doing. It keeps looking out of focus to me, and it won't let go of that spot focus. Maybe does it look out of focus to you?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyway, so I just made a decision to not be mad at him ever, literally ever, when he was at work. And I'm going to tell you, it was really hard sometimes. And I had to swallow whatever the issue was or whatever, you know, because you just don't know if they're going to come home. You don't know if, you just don't know. And most of the time, you know, it's really, you know, generic day at work. But then you have these moments when it's not. You have, you know, a pursuit or a fatality, you know, a child dies in a crash. Those kind of things, you know, are rough, you know. And so I just made a decision to not be mad at him, and then we could cuss and discuss when he got home.
I mean, I would say law enforcement's like this, at least where I worked and where we live. Law enforcement is like 95% boredom and 5% sheer chaos, or I don't want to say terror, but chaos and adrenaline. And you never know when that 5% is going to happen. And sometimes you can't answer the phone or a text message, and your spouse is at home, has no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. So if you aren't able to answer your phone for 45 minutes or an hour after you're supposed to be sitting in the driveway, the opposite side of that, the home side of that, I can't imagine the uncertainty there.
Yeah, I mean, there were only, I would say, a couple of times that I was ever worried about him. Just a minute. Come on. Gemma, out.
Squirrels got to get put outside.
Gemma.
That wasn't my fault.
199% your fault.
It wasn't my fault.
Okay.
I'm at work right now, remember?
No, this is totally different. Now I don't know where we're at.
There was only like a couple times where you were really actually worried that because you didn't know the uncertainty side of things.
There were a couple times. Once, I don't remember exactly what the event was. I think it was a pursuit. Obviously, he hadn't had a chance to tell me that he's in the pursuit, but other people in town knew something was going on and started blowing up my phone. And, you know, is Daniel okay? All this stuff. And, of course, I have no idea what's going on. So those kind of moments I got a few times. You know, there was a shooting in town and you weren't at it. And, of course, people, was Daniel there? Was Daniel here? You know, is he part of this? You know, and I'm like...
The small town side of it.
Yes.
We live in a town of 5,000 people. And
right.
When something happens and the highway patrol's involved...
Everyone knows.
Everyone knows, but they don't know who was involved a lot of times. So then they're instantly wanting to know, so they're calling or texting the spouse.
Yeah.
Who doesn't even know anything's going on yet a lot of times.
Yeah. And then there was a time where he had to pull his gun on somebody. Now, I didn't know this until, you know, after it was all over or whatever. And I actually watched the video of it. And I saw a side of him that I'd never seen before. And it was scary. And, you know, I still get that, like, feeling in my gut that was like, oh my gosh, like, something could have happened. And it was just watching that video. I'll never forget watching that video. But just knowing what they do out there, I think God just had a purpose and has a purpose for all of those men that do that job.
And women. There's more women now than there used to be.
Yeah, there is.
The highway patrol, at least in Oklahoma, is overwhelmingly men.
Yes.
There are a few females, but it's almost all men. And I never really worked with females in my area, so that's it. What she equates as troopers. It's just all of us guys that she saw. So
yeah, I'm not trying to discriminate.
No.
I love cop women. But I would say there were a few times that I wasn't sure. You know, I just wasn't sure, and then I'm like, oh, I don't, you know. And I'd said before, like, Daniel and I even started dating. My thing was, I wasn't going to date anyone in law enforcement or a fireman. And when we started dating, he was going to be a trooper and he was a fireman in our national park. So, guys, don't ever say.
Sometimes Jesus is like,
Yeah, that's exactly.
You said what?
Yeah, watch this. So I do want to say that it was a wonderful road for us, for our family, and I don't regret any of it. I mean, I know a lot of it is boring and monotonous and stressful and frustrating and wonderful. I mean, he had freedom to come eat dinner while he was working or go to ball games and all that kind of stuff while he was working, if he was able and not on a call or whatever. So there were wonderful sides to that job. But then there are sides to it that not everyone sees, not everyone feels. And so the law enforcement community is, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's just a family all on its own. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
no.
you're right. And I think a lot of people that aren't involved in law enforcement or first responders, families, they look from the outside and see, okay, there's these cops and they're only friends with other cops. Mm-hmm. And we were guilty of that ourselves for a long time. Like,
well, we lost a lot of friends.
Well, yes, we absolutely did. But I'm saying just in general, there is a brotherhood there. It's like the military in a sense. But like we still do have close friends that are in law enforcement. But when we went on vacation, like I didn't realize at the time, but we were building a circle of people in law enforcement. Our best friends were, one's a police chief and one's a park ranger, like that's who we went on vacation with for years. And people on the outside looking in are like, you just think you're better than us. You're not friends with people that aren't cops.
Right. And
it's just, that family aspect of it is they know what you're going through and their wives know what your wives are going through. And, it's just you can relate to other people in law enforcement and relate to other families in law enforcement. And I think people that aren't involved in that from the outside looking in see it skewed a little bit maybe. Yeah. It's not intentional.
Right.
And we had a lot of friends that weren't in law enforcement,
sure,
but it's easy to get sucked into those people that understand you.
Right. And what we're going through on a daily basis, me and their wives, just so easy to have conversations because we are all in this little world together, and we all have the same fears and concerns and struggles, and we know what it's like when we make these plans and then one of our guys gets a call and they have to go, and the night is kind of like thrown off, and we are always expecting the call, like to interrupt our lives. That was one thing that I do not miss.
And not even necessarily a call that something bad happened to the cop,
right.
The law enforcement, the trooper.
No.
Just the call of you got to go and you don't know when you're going to be home.
Like, right.
How many family plans were interrupted
oh my goodness.
When I was off work. Supposed to get off at 3 and didn't get home until 7, 8, 9, 10. But the times when you were off work and the phone rings, it's hard on the family. There's no denying that because you have plans and you have things are going on and you have to drop that. Like we were at my grandpa's 99th birthday.
And this is after he put in his leave to retire.
Aside from that, we were at my grandpa's 99th birthday and got a phone call that there was a riot going on in Oklahoma City, a planned riot that was going to happen that day. And they said, you need to be here in less than an hour, which was impossible because the travel, but still it was drop what you're doing right now, leave and go to work.
And we were over an hour away from home. Flew home, literally flew home.
I think the tires on the car they were at least this close to the ground. We weren't flying real high. I mean, we were hovering right above the asphalt going home.
Yeah. Our kids never get concerned when he drives because he's a law-abider or something. I don't know. I am not typically. But that day was different. But anyway, I don't miss the interruption. I don't. It is just crushing sometimes, especially when you had a big thing planned or whatever, And So that I don't miss. I did have, so when we started talking about, you know, him retiring, because YouTube was just growing and growing and growing, and it was just becoming so much for him. I mean, more than me.
Not in a negative way.
No,
so much
I don't
of a
mean that.
potential possibility there. Like,
right, and I mean time-wise,
yes.
you know, because you did work a full-time job, and a lot of times that full-time took extra time, you know, because you weren't off sometimes when you were off. And so doing that and the YouTube just was becoming a lot. And I don't even know that you said it out loud when you first thought it, but then when you first said it out loud and said, you know, what if this turns into, you know, me needing to leave the highway patrol? And I cried a lot. Like it literally just made me want to throw up.
I remember that conversation. We were sitting right here in our kitchen, and it wasn't even a what if. It was the first time I went to her and said, I think I need to quit my job and pursue this business full time. It was one of those things, like, we had laughed and joked about it, but never really had a serious conversation.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that I felt God was leading me down a certain path away from the highway patrol. And there was just so many things going on, and it took me a long time, like weeks, to really, I don't even want to say build up the courage to have that conversation with you, but to actually realize this is what needs to happen. And it wasn't necessarily anything against the highway patrol. It was just so much. I mean, we've been working at this for 5 or 6 years, you know, and
and so I did a lot of crying that night, and just because it's so uncertain, and I am not comfortable with uncertainty. A lot of times, that's one struggle I've had for many years, most of my life, I would say, is not being in control. And ultimately, God's in control, and I know that, and it's hard. It was hard letting go of the security, of the financial side. I mean, that's really where it is for me, or was. How are we going to do this? What happens if YouTube tanks? What happens if this? You know, you can what if anything to death, but ultimately it was, this is what God says. He is telling us, we feel it, and the more we talked about it, and the more little things would happen throughout our day, our week, and it just kept adding up, and we're like, okay, we're listening, but are you sure?
Yeah. It was a full year from the time we said, hey, this is what I think I need to do, until I actually did it. It was a full year.
It was a very emotional ride and roller coaster, and prepping, and, you know, for finances and health insurance. I did have a question about health insurance. How do we pay for health insurance now? Well, thankfully, because he was vested with the state, we got to keep our insurance, our health insurance, through them.
We have to pay it out of pocket.
We have to pay it, obviously.
Yeah. Some departments in some places it's covered, but ours we have to pay it after.
Yes, and so we thankfully were able to do that, and we're also covered on Chickasaw tribal insurance. So that helps.
Tribal health care. It's not really insurance.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so we had to get all that stuff in order. We had to do our part. You know, God's telling us what to do, but we still had to do our part in it. And so now, and I've also got emails about this, you know, about your faith. How do you stay with your faith going through everything we've gone through? And it's because of our faith that we're able to go through what all we've had to endure, and struggles, and getting to this point in our life. And I just believe that he has a plan, and his plan is way better than mine, always. And
my plan?
No.
Just God's plan.
Just God's plan.
Okay. I thought maybe I get included in that too.
Your plans are, you know, I just, looking back, throughout my life, how many times, you know, I prayed for something specific to happen, and it didn't. And how big of a blessing that turned out to be. I see every reason why he told me no. Every time he told me no. Even when I wasn't living my faith like I should, he was doing his part. And that's why we share that. And I feel like that's part of the reason our platform has succeeded. I mean, to this point, you know, God wants us to tell our testimony and to share about him. And that's partly why I want to do this podcast. And not everyone believes. And, you know, that's you have a free will to believe or not to believe. But we do. And it is our passion to share that, because without him, we would not be here. And I wouldn't have got to experience being a trooper's wife for 14 years. And I don't regret it. It made him, I'm going to start crying. Dang it. I don't want to go into the ugly cry.
No ugly crying, huh?
No. It just made him such a wonderful man. I'm so proud of you.
Don't look at me like that.
I mean, I helped you grow up. And
You did. You did.
but we grew up together and we raised these kids together. And I'm so proud of our life. Dang it.
Did you see that chicken?
Yeah.
Yeah, gosh. 14 years in law enforcement is not a full career to most people. You know, nobody leaves, not just the highway patrol, but anybody that's going to do a career in law enforcement is 20 plus years. And to pick up and walk away at 14 years was incredibly difficult. But there's so many people that watch that have sent us messages over the years that are in law enforcement and they're scared to get out. And so many people don't understand. Like, even Wrangler Stars, a huge channel, 2 million subscribers, did a video the other day pretty much bashing police officers because of a couple circumstances, a couple incidences that he's had in his life. And it was just like a stab in the heart listening to him talk about it. And I have a lot of respect for Wrangler Stars, a good channel, good creator, great guy. But bashing an entire profession of people across our country that are literally laying their life on the line to serve the country. Are there bad apples? Yes, absolutely. There are. Are there people that are taking advantage of their job? Yes. But the same thing happens with attorneys and doctors and teachers and nurses and everything. It's the person, not the profession. But there's so many people that get into law enforcement, they love their job, they love their career, but they don't have an exit plan. They don't have an exit strategy. Or they do it for 15 years and they're burnt out, they're tired, they're ready to get out, but they feel trapped because that's all they know. And one of the guys I worked with years ago, I mean, he's still there, but had a long conversation with about another guy who hated his job. And he's like, if you hate it that much, quit. Don't do it anymore. And, you know, I remember that conversation. I'm like, it wasn't that I hated my job. I didn't hate the patrol, but I was at a point where I felt like I needed to step away from it for personal reasons and family reasons and business reasons. And I had a plan. That plan took a long time to set up. I didn't just walk away in a day. It was something that we worked towards for years before we even knew we were working towards that goal.
God knew.
Well, you didn't
I'm
even
gonna
know.
throw that out there. God knew.
Right.
But we did not. It
No.
was never in the cards. Like, we never had a conversation about, let's do YouTube so I can quit my job.
No.
That never happened.
It never did. But we had something working. We had something going, and it grew and grew, and we worked on it. And quite honestly, talking to this camera and doing everything, whether it was sitting out there in the garden shooting garden videos or the animals or fishing or whatever it was kind of my outlet from my day-to-day stress, because that thing of being in law enforcement and that brotherhood is such a tight bond. But you go to work and you do things and you see things that normal people don't see, that their average person will never see in their lifetime. You know, there's days where you go to work and you go see dead bodies of accident scenes or shootings or whatever it is, of adults, of children, of like things happen that you have to work and you have to deal with at work. And then your shift ends and you're expected to come home, walk in the door, and your family doesn't know what you just did. They don't know your day. So when you walk in, they expect normal you to show up, not the person that's been dealing with horrible, terrible things all day. And you're expected to be one person at work and another person at home, and that builds calluses in people. And it's hard to overcome sometimes, and a lot of mental stress. And if you don't have people at home that you can talk to, that stuff builds up and hurts people. It hurts. I mean, it's a mental injury in my opinion. And so then guys get trapped. That's the only life they know. They go to work, they deal with what they do at work, and then they come home and it causes so much stress, and people that aren't in law enforcement don't see it.
I mean, there were several times when he worked fatalities that he came home and we laid in bed and we cried together, about it that night. I mean, he had to work his nephew's fatality 3 miles from our house, where our son actually ended up having a crash.
Hit the same tree.
Same tree, and totaled his truck. And we didn't share that with you all, but anyway, and I think your last fatality was a 2-year-old. I think it was one of your last ones. Mm-hmm. And just moments like that people do not know unless they're in it. How just gut-wrenching. And when you come home and you're grateful all your kids are here and safe, but knowing someone has to go bury their baby, it's heart-wrenching and it's hard, and that takes a mental load off of you or whoever it is if you don't talk about it. And that's why Daniel shared Danny's testimony and his podcast, and I'm so glad that we're kind of past that.
We're past dealing with it on a daily basis.
Yes.
I still struggle knowing. I feel like I got off the ship. I got out, but I left a lot of guys there. Like going to that funeral yesterday. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys there that are still dealing with that stuff, and I part of me, in a sense, feels like I abandoned them to come home, mm-hmm. and I struggle with that sometimes. I mean, I don't miss the job. I don't miss going to work, but I feel like I jumped ship on people, and that's hard.
They get it though. They do. Maybe they need to work on their exit plan.
Maybe so. I don't know. Anyways, this wasn't supposed to be about that.
Well,
So
we're criers.
Moving on. Jeez, people are gonna start calling me Lester.
I mean, I could think of worse things.
Yeah. Jake.
Oh, we are not going shirtless here.
Oh my goodness. Okay, moving on.
So
there you go. There you have it. Law enforcement family. There's a huge thing. You see a lot of cops. You see a lot of people in law enforcement. There's a whole bigger story that you don't see if you're not around it. And if you are in it, just hear it from us. If you're looking to get out of law enforcement, there is life after the patrol. There's life after the department. Yeah. You can still be a part of it, still maintain those friendships, but there is, I absolutely love where we're at in our life, and we wouldn't be here if we wouldn't have taken that huge step. It was probably one of the hardest things we've ever done as a couple, was to say, I'm stepping away from this career that I worked so hard to get.
Yes.
But there is life after law enforcement, it's good.
This kind of leads into my first question. One of the emails I got.
Hang on.
Oh.
Talk about the email first. We didn't talk about it in the last one. Yeah. So what are we doing here?
Please email us with any questions, comments, anything you want us to talk about, maybe. afhpodcast@yahoo.com. Email me. I read all of those.
Don't call our local Chamber of Commerce.
Do not, please. Someone called our local Chamber of Commerce. Someone called my best friend's work to talk to Daniel. Please, guys, don't do that.
Yeah.
Shoot us an email.
Sorry.
If it's that important, shoot us an email. We try to, we check our email throughout the
May
day.
not respond to every email.
Right.
We don't answer every one of these
cannot.
questions.
No, we can't. There is a lot. But I did forget to say on last time, please email us if you have a topic or something you want us to cover. So with that being said, I'm going into my first question. Marty emailed in and said a bunch of stuff, and then he said, can you elaborate on how you felt Daniel's last day as a trooper? We've touched on it a little bit, but that last day was almost as emotional as the first day.
It was hard.
It was hard. I'm going to cry again. Oh my gosh. That morning, watching him pack up all his uniform and his car, and it was so weird because that was the last time he was going to be wearing that uniform. Actually, it was the day before, I think. But anyway, it was just so surreal. It was literally like we said, you know.
We did.
This really long book, and we closed it, and some really wonderful people, you know, that we don't get to see very often anymore. And anyway, it was just very emotional being at the training center where it all started and where it ended. A lot of crying that day.
It just so happened that two of the guys that I worked most of my career with were up there that day because they had promoted and had different jobs, but they were both there and come out and talk to us. And two guys that I really looked up to my whole career. And it was really cool.
Well, I lost it when, so I had to follow him to Oklahoma City to drop off his car. And so when he was driving off in his car, it was just almost like a death. I don't know. It was just, I'd watch him leave the house every day, and I'd watch him pull back up, and our babies, our dogs run out, and so happy to, you know, he's home, or, you know. And then just to watch him leave was just exciting, but sad in a way.
Yeah.
Okay. Crap. Okay, number 2. Okay, this one's kind of fun. Linda wants to know, why is Brooke so afraid of Daniel? That is the question no one can answer.
It's not just me, though.
No.
It's a lot of men.
Yeah.
And a lot of men with beards.
Yeah.
Which is weird because her dad, Dusty, has a beard.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Brooks is my niece, for those of you that don't know, and her daddy has Cross Timbers Bison on YouTube. And yeah, she has never liked Daniel. If no one else is around, she's really good with him. She'll sit in his lap, like at ball games and here in the house. If there aren't any kids around.
Lately, for a long time.
Yeah,
she wouldn't.
for a long time, no. She would scream bloody murder. So we don't know why. Number 3, Prairie Havens Venture says, do you think people subscribe just to judge and hate? Yep.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Some people do. I mean, there's just, I said in a video a long time ago, and I don't remember where I heard it, but sometimes that you can't get mad at haters because that's what they are. They're going to hate. Like, they're just haters. So if you get mad at them, it doesn't do you any good. But yeah, absolutely. When you post a video, YouTube has thumbs up and thumbs down. Used to, you kept a count of how many thumbs down. You could see it publicly. Now they don't allow that. But then Facebook has all the different emojis, the mad face and all that stuff. But it's funny because you can post a video on YouTube and they have the notification bell you can click. And so when somebody publishes a video on YouTube, you get a notification. Well, there was a long time I would notice we'd have 5 or 6 thumbs down in the first minute. So that meant we had haters that didn't like us, that didn't even watch the video, but as soon as they clicked on it, they hit the thumbs down button because they thought that like would hurt us. But so we had haters that hated us so much they really loved us because they had the notification bell turned on.
Yeah.
And they would they'd get on there, click it, thumbs down. Not even watch the video.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely, it's what's neat about YouTube versus Facebook is in YouTube we can go in and search comments. So if we get a really hateful comment or one that's just somebody that's just like scolding us for something, you can go in. It's hard. We can't read all the comments anymore.
No, there's so many.
Literally hundreds every day. But you could search that person's name, and sometimes you'll have a whole list of comments that I never even read, but every video I did something wrong. Like either how I loaded the hay, or how I fed an animal, or how I talked to Houston, or how Houston talked to me, or how Bear did something. Like every video, they're scolding you. It's like,
I really feel sad for those people. Like, what are you so angry about, really? Let's get to the root of the problem.
I probably don't want to, really.
No, probably not. But still, like, there's just going to be those people.
I would say overall, though, the vast majority, 99% of the comments are good on most videos. But we do such a broad thing with all of our content. Like, I get it. Like, we go out and we pet on animals that are here and livestock, and we love on them and all that. And then the next video, we may be shooting a deer and killing it to eat it. And some people, there's just different audiences, and maybe it's my fault for not channeling into that, one specific audience, but I can't. I never could do that.
No, we don't do boxes well. Like, I don't want to be in a box. Okay, now song of the week. And someone made a good point. I think it was a comment, actually, and said if you would put a link to my song on the description.
Oh, yeah.
We need to do that.
Yeah, I never thought about it, but
yeah.
every song that you do's got a YouTube music video, probably.
Yeah. So this one is, I checked, it's called A Life That's Good, and it's by Nashville, the TV show cast, Nashville cast. And so one of my favorites, me and Emily used to watch that show all the time. And I mean, I love Nashville, so of course I was going to watch the show. Huh. But this song is wonderful. Two of the girls that acted on the show sing this song. They're sisters.
That's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, y'all go listen. Thank you for hanging out with us. If you made it this long.
This was supposed to be a short podcast.
Yeah,
it was going to be. I said, let's try to keep it in that 30-minute range, and we're at 42 minutes and 39 seconds.
Well, it was a good topic.
It was a good one. It was good. It was.
Okay.
DJ only cried 6 times.
Yeah.
So, anyways, hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one.
Do your best.